Today I want to do a video on HMOs because right now the in strategy is buy, refurb, refinance, and I love buy, refurb, refinance. In fact, I have two myself. I've got one that's just completed. I got one that's in the middle of refurb. I love the strategy. Getting your money in, get it back out, rent it out, and making some cash flow. The thing is with buy, refurb, refinance, most people when they start investing in property are looking to generate another income stream. Maybe they want to pass something on to their kids. Maybe they want to create another income stream like to support their business or their job in case that goes. And realistically, if you're looking at buy, refurb, refinance, your cash flow is likely to be somewhere in the region of £250 a month once you paid for everything. Now, I don't know about you, but how many houses are you going to need then in order to get to a 2, 3, 5, 10 grand a month income where you can live off your rental proceeds? You know, how many houses do you need? And then you've got to factor in the time that it takes to do one of these deals. Your average buy, refurb, refinance these days in a best case scenario is going to take 6 months to do. Worst case, you're looking around about 12 months because you've got to buy the house, which thanks to coronavirus is taking somewhere in the region of 6 months. Then you've got to refurb it, which typically 10, 12 weeks, something like that. And then you've got to refinance it as well, which will probably take you another 2 weeks on the back of that. Then you've got to tenant it. So it takes quite a while to do these deals. So if you've only got a pot of 100 grand, yeah, you can keep doing deal after deal after deal after deal, but it's going to take you something like 5 years before you're going to be making a little over £1,000 a month. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, that is just not fast enough. I need to get some better cash flow, I need to get some cash flow in sooner. The other thing you need to consider is realistically with a buy, refurb, refinance, although you need a pot of like 100 grand, 50 grand, or whatever to do one of these deals, actually, when you look at how much money you're only investing the 2, 3, 5 grand that you leave in the deal. So if you've got a large chunk of cash, several 6 figures, or maybe up into the 7-figure range, you're only investing 5 grand of your pot into one of those deals, which means you've only invested 5 grand of your money into property. Now, in reality, when you started, you said, right, I've got 500 grand, I'm gonna put it into property. Thing is, you've only invested 5 grand of that. It's gonna take you a long time to work through your 500K. So what are the alternatives? And for me, the best alternative has gotta be HMOs. Now, there's 2 big reasons why people don't like HMOs. One of them is because of coronavirus, and the second one is because of this high risk thing. You've got more tenants who are usually on a lower income than those people who are in private rental accommodation. Now, I'm here today to bust both of those myths because I love HMOs. The first strategy I ever started sourcing was HMOs. In fact, the first deal I ever sold was an HMO, and to this day, it has made £1,500 a month every single month. £1,500. As we looked at earlier, that's going to take you like 5 years to accumulate if you've got 100 grand. So although your return on investment might be higher, if it's going to take you 5 years to get to the point where you get to £1,000 a month over a 5-year period, you're probably going to find your return on investment is actually better going down the HMO route. You've got to look over the term and not just over a quick 12-month period or what an individual house is going to be doing once it's set up. You've got to look at the entire strategy in which you're going to be investing in and how that actually impacts you over the next 12 months, the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, etc. There are 3 main reasons why I love HMOs. Number 1, cash flow above all else is my favorite reason why I love HMOs. Number 2, much lower risk than something like a buy, refurb, refinance or a BRR HMO or a development or anything like that. Number 3 is they're super highly regulated, which kind of ties into point number 2. So the main reason obviously is the cash flow side. Your bog standard HMO, the cheaper end of the scale is probably going to make you somewhere in the region of £600 to £700 a month, which is still, 3 buy, refurb, refinance deals, and which is going to take you around about 18 months on a best case scenario. And yet you can buy an HMO and after you've bought it, within a month, you can have some tenants in, you can start getting that cash flow coming in. For me, that's kind of like a no-brainer. And you're gonna be making 20, 25% anyway, and most buy, refurb, refinance deals that I see are coming in around the 20, 25% mark, which for me is just like crazy. Why would you go to all that extra work, all that extra risk of hoping you get a valuation, trying to get your refurb done on budget, taking almost twice as long to do a deal to make a third of the cash flow? Like for me, that just doesn't make sense. Do an HMO, make the same return, but make a hell of a lot more cash flow, reduce your risk, and just make more money quicker. If we're looking at instant gratification, surely that is going to be a better way of going, a better route to go down. This is why I love HMOs. And the second reason is because despite what people are saying around coronavirus, there is still massive demand for them. And given what's likely to happen next year with a downward turn in the markets, rents go up. And if people can't afford to buy, either because they can't get a big enough deposit together, or maybe their lending has been restricted, maybe they just don't have the income they used to have, and they can't get a mortgage, or they can't save enough to get a mortgage, they're gonna be forced to rent. And rents usually go up, and rents very, very, very rarely come down. down, those people can no longer afford private rental accommodation, have to pay for their own bills, council tax, utilities, etc. They can go into an HMO, and usually it's about 60% the cost of actually renting privately. And yet the conditions are still good. I mean, look at some of the HMOs we've been doing recently on our channel. These are massive rooms. The most recent one we're putting together has got an 18 square meter front room, plus an ensuite. That's a massive space. I mean, most single houses you get, your bedroom's not gonna be anywhere near as big. Then from a kitchen perspective, you've got more hobs, you've got more ovens. So if you do happen to be cooking on your own, then you can do bigger meals and cooking's just as easy. Actually, the standard of living in an HMO isn't that much lower than a private rental accommodation. In fact, a lot of my friends, a lot of people I've grown up with, a lot of people I know now who still live in HMOs or have lived in HMOs, didn't really hate it. A lot of people actually enjoyed it. There's a massive social element to it. You know, if you're someone who likes to live in the city, it's probably because you like having lots of people around you. You can go do things quite easily, and HMOs are located in cities. HMOs are honestly a fantastic strategy. And for those of you concerned about student accommodation, you know what? I completely agree. You know, this year for students is not a good year to be buying. You think about it. There's not a lot of people going to universities. You know, a lot of people are studying from home, so not even bothering to travel in because they can still do their degree from home, still get the maintenance grant, got a lot more money as a student that way. But again, think of the longer term. What's going to happen if all the universities just close down overnight? Sure, there's no more student market, but then what is everyone else going to do coming out of college? You can't just go and get a job. I mean, what's the job market saying right now? How many people are on furlough? How many people are going to lose their jobs at the end of that? Another reason to be investing in property, by the way, but think about it. You know, universities aren't just going to close overnight. Of course they're going to be here for the years to come. And coronavirus is a one-off incident. It's a one-off thing. Sure, it's taking more than like a week or two to go by, and we've been in this now for 9 months, and there doesn't look like to be like an end. We've just introduced a new tier system, for crying out loud. But hey, eventually the student market has to come back. People still have to go to university. You can't travel and do gap years like you used to anyway. Your options are really, really limited. And where do people stay when they go to university? HMOs. Until you move into the second year, you know, even at that point, most people still stay in HMOs. HMOs are a fantastic way of making money, and students are not the only market you can tap into. In fact, right now, I guarantee you, everyone who's watching this video has ordered something from Amazon in the last month. All the people who work at Amazon here in the UK, working in the factories, they stay in HMOs. In fact, they stay in some of our HMOs that we've set up for investors. So the market is far from dead. There's so much demand for rooms right now. With a lot of investors pulling away from it, there's even better deals to be had. Not only that, the cash flow is so much higher. You can reach that 5 or 10 grand a month figure an awful lot quicker. And for those of you who've got more money, you can actually invest sizable chunks of your capital into property so it's making a positive return and not just sat in the bank. HMOs are really highly regulated. Now, why is that a good thing? It means that overnight they can't just come in and change things. This is why I wouldn't buy a property for service accommodation. I have spoken about this before. It's because at any point the government could go, right, 90-day rule across the whole of the country. And immediately you've just taken your occupancy and your total earnings for that year and divided it by 4. You've now only got a quarter's worth of revenue. That ain't a good position to be in as a business where something completely outside of your control can come along and give you such a massive hit to your revenue. Most businesses didn't take that much of a hit from coronavirus, for crying out loud. It's not a regulated industry. Anything can happen overnight. Not only that, you're trying to convince people of something they never even heard about. And people don't like new things. They don't like change. HMOs, everybody knows what an HMO is. There's HMO managers in every city. It's a well understood, highly regarded strategy that people know about. You're going to get lots of advice from lots of different people in lots of different areas. You're not confined to one place either. You've got great managers everywhere. You've got builders who understand the compliance. You've got council members who understand it. You can literally take them out and go, hey, what do you think of this house? Is it going to pass? And they'll go, yeah. No, they'll give you advice. It's super easy. You're trying to get a rent to rent from someone. You've only got to get over the barrier of a company-led agreement. You haven't got to get over the barrier of Airbnb and nightly stays. You're just talking about HMOs. People know what HMOs are. People understand that they work. They've been around for a long, long time. It's a well-proven strategy. It was the strategy that came after standard private rental buy-to-lets. But it was a hell of a lot better because instead of renting a house out for £500 a month, you rent it out for £1,500 a month. So immediately making a lot more money. HMOs really are fantastic. And you've got to remember that when you look at this, just because it's an old strategy doesn't mean it doesn't work. And just because we've got Corona, again, doesn't mean you can't fill the rooms. In fact, I'm seeing the opposite. We're still tenanting houses in days. We can tenant an HMO in a good area just as quickly as we can tenant a single let. Why? Because if there's demand, there is demand. It all comes down to your due diligence and making sure you do things properly. When you invest your money into a buy, refurb, refinance deal, you're only actually investing 5 grand. Usually it's about how much money you leave in the deal. 2, 5 grand, something along those lines. So that 5 grand that you've got left in is actually the capital you have invested. The rest of it you just need to do the deal, but you don't actually make any positive return on that. In fact, if you consider the fact that your 100 grand or whatever is gonna be tied up in the house for 6 months, it's making a 0% return for 6 months, it may as well just be in the bank. Like, it's exactly the same. You've got to think about what your money is actually doing for you. I'm not just talking about collecting houses and build a portfolio here, you know, getting your money in, getting your money back out again. Think of how much capital you're actually investing. What is the return on the money you're actually going to be getting back? Because yes, although it comes back to you after 6, 9, 12 months, that capital hasn't made you any profit. If you do flips, then traditionally speaking, you're looking at a 20 or 25% margin on a flip, you're making 20 to 25% margin, which is great. And flips are an awesome way of doing it. And for a lot of people, flips are a fantastic strategy. They give you nice lump sums of cash. Again, I'm not bashing buy, refurb, refinance. Like I say, I have two myself. I love them. If you have a limited pot of capital, it's a great way of keeping going, but it's not a fast way to success by any means. You want to get some rental income, you want to get a passive income stream, you need to look at those strategies that cash flow a hell of a lot better. And for those of you who have more money, you can actually tie the two together. You can do a buy, refurb, refinance, HMO, and get the best of both worlds, capital returned and massive cash flow. If you want to go into one of them, you just need to get more capital. And for those of you who are investors, who've got around 50 or 100 grand or something like that, you know, you would often ask deal sources, hey, why don't you buy the deals yourself? If you've got so many investors and you've got this and you've got that and the other, why don't you take these deals on yourself? Why don't you joint venture and raise finance? Hey, I just posed the same question back to you. Have you spoken to any of your friends or family? Have you got money pulled together into a bigger pot so you can do more things with it? Have you looked down that route? I know a lot of my investors have. A lot of people come to me asking me questions as investors saying, hey, we want to buy deals from you. Can you help me find more money to invest? Can you help me leverage those people that I'm working with? And I'm like, sure. That's called business. It's called win-win. That is a joint venture in itself. It's just a different type. Joint ventures are a blank sheet of paper. Use them to get into those bigger deals that you want to do. Use those to get into HMOs so you can invest more capital, make more cash flow, make more return. Just don't confine yourself to looking down one path. Look at all the options, look at all the pros and cons of every strategy, and then weigh them up and decide what it is you want to do. So if you want to learn a little bit more about HMOs, or you want to have a chat about buying an HMO, then click the link below. And to see an HMO that we've just finished that's turned out really nice, then check out this video up here. See you next time.